Welcome to Transatlantic Wrestling Talk. I am your host, as always, Andy, joined by my co-host, as always, Dale. How are we doing, brother?
Andy, I'm very well. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me once again in your humble abode, or our humble abode. It's quite the home that we've made. Is that true?
Yeah. We make it a very, very fun environment, which is what we try and do every week. And we say what we want.
Absolutely. We're going to keep the cursing to a minimum. And look, I love the fact that you censored yourself. That's because the powers that be at YouTube like to hear those words and they pinpoint it. But there's some people on here where they're not going to really curb that too much. You know why? Because we're heading into the Attitude Era. We're in 1997, March 23rd, 1997. We're recording this on March 19th of 2022, so about 4 days away. But what's going on in the world of wrestling in 1997, Andy?
So it's a very transitional period, and obviously, it's probably enough time to talk about the guy behind us here, Mr. Scott Hall, who sadly passed away. Him and his pal, Mr. Nash, turned up in WCW, which set a chain of events, which made us go back into the Attitude Era, and boss, brilliant. And this was the start of it. And also, I believe this was the standout match for Stone Cold. This is when it was like, okay, we're away to the races.
It was wonderful. And you look around the crowd, and that's when you kind of see it's nice to not see people looking down at their cell phones and paying very much a lot of attention at what's going on in front of them. But when you do see the crowd, there were a lot of NWO shirts out there. And, unfortunately, we had the passing of Razor Ramon this week. Scott Hall, who was a legend in his own right.
Do you know what, right? One thing I just want to say, obviously, before we get into WrestleMania, let's just have a quick convo about Scott. And one thing I learned from this week is I'm going to start appreciating the legends while they're still here, because sometimes you don't realize until they're gone. And, something that I sat there the other day and I was thinking about Scott Hall after he'd gone, and I was like, the influence he had on me as a child anyway, because I loved the Razor Ramon character and then obviously the NWO and whatnot. But if you look at Scott and you think to yourself, okay, during that transitional period in WWE, he was one of the characters that kept it going with Razor Ramon. He wasn't selfish in the fact of, like, he put over the 1-2-3 kid, he put over Jericho in WCW. He got a lot of stars out there, and then if Kevin Nash and Scott Hall hadn't walked into WCW, we would never have seen the NWO. We might never have seen the Attitude Era. We certainly wouldn't have seen the Crow Sting. There's a lot that's happened in wrestling history off the basis of Scott Hall, and I don't feel like he's had enough, while he's been alive especially, there's not been enough respect and kind of, a nod to what he's actually done within the industry.
Hats off to Eric Bischoff for having him partake in this and actually say, you know what, I'm going to do something that's never been done before. Obviously, lawsuits happened and ensued after that because there was a lot of confusion in the industry at that point, even amongst rumors. We didn't look at him as Razor Ramon there. We looked at him as Scott Hall, and they said, do you still, they actually asked an interview was, do you still work for WWE, WWF at the time? They said no. You said something pinpoint perfect about appreciate the legends. The network actually has a Coliseum home video from 1994 of Razor Ramon, and I said I might as well go into this. Hosted by Gorilla Monsoon and Stan Lane, and I was watching it, and Stan's hair looked great, and the first match was Bam Bam Bigelow versus Razor Ramon on a Monday Night Raw. And I said, man, I love Bam Bam too. And that's why we really do have to appreciate, these stars, because they're just awesome. They're awesome.
Man. And, the other thing, I read a story the other day about Scotty Too Hot. He was saying back when he was struggling in Memphis and he was trying to get a hit, and Scott Hall gave him money. He said Scott Hall didn't really even know. He gave him a little push off the side, and he said, like, you'll never forget that. And it's like, these stories, I want to hear these while they're still here. I want to hear them, while you're not talking after the fact. Let's appreciate what we've got until it's gone. And the biggest influence and the chain of events that happened is we would not have got the two biggest things in wrestling would not have happened if it wasn't for Scott Hall and Kevin Nash going to WCW. And what was that, my good friend?
Well, first off, besides the NWO and a lot of the push there, what do you mean as far as?
There was two things that stand out. Take away the NWO, take away Sting and everything else. What was the two big things that happened?
My friend gets the wheels turning. You're not going to have Triple H being the person that he is. Okay. And you're not going to have HBK along with one of the biggest events ever that we will talk about, when that time rolls around, and stuff that we still talk about to this day, the Montreal Screwjob. I think are the two things that you're thinking of, correct?
Nope. So you've missed out the two biggest things out the lot. Fake Diesel and fake Razor would never have happened.
Dickhead. I'm really trying to like play here, and play games with you. You're playing games with me, man, and I'm talking about the game. And then you're sitting there and actually agreeing with me the whole time. You're like, yeah. No, wrong. You got
no. Well, you've got valid points, but it just wasn't what I was thinking about. But no, I didn't want to end it on a solemn note. I know we've seen a lot of people who are solemn, but before we made a bit of a laugh and a joke. As from what I hear, Scott Hall would have liked. So, from us here, obviously, we was really sad to see this, and we hope his memory lives on the way each other should do, and he's respected for what he actually done for the business. Yeah.
No. We were looking back, and a lot of us, even at Wrestle Buddy, we're actually talking about our favorite matches and most underrated matches. And I know that you have one in particular. Right off the bat, I think of, Martel and Razor '93 on Raw. But actually, one of my favorite matches ever was actually the wild card match, 1995 Survivor Series, where he teamed up with Owen and Shane Douglas and Yokozuna. And then on the other side was facing Sid, British Bulldog, Shawn Michaels, and Ahmed Johnson. That match happened, and it was entertaining as hell.
It really was. Okay, well, let's get into this WrestleMania card then. Obviously, as we say, really pivotal WrestleMania. Some really classic matches on this card. Really classic matches on this card. And we started off with Billy Gunn defeating Flash Funk. Not a great match, is what it is. But, it was the first time we'd seen Billy as a singles competitor, wasn't it?
He was a rockabilly. He was a rockabilly. And it kind of actually reminds you of somebody, that will come out later on. And, it is what it is. Flash Funk was just not made for WWE.
No,
I think the last time we'd see him, besides the appearances and the anniversaries, were probably for the Brawl for All stuff like that. Which yay.
Well, that's it. And one thing that nobody's ever mentioned in this, and it looked to me like this is why he was a bit off the pace, Flash Funk, and it also shows why Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, not are quite so good as what they are, is in a WCW ring, Flash Funk looked very high flying, thing. The extra space in the WWE ring looked to kind of put him off a bit. Even in this match, you can see that.
You talking about WCW or ECW?
Sorry, ECW, WCW, because in WCW the ring was smaller, wasn't it, a little bit?
So was ECW too.
Yeah.
So when he was Too Cold Scorpio, you could tell that he was another guy above the shoulders of, no offense, Balls Mahoney, but guys like that. But yeah, it was you hit it right on the head, man. It's too much when you're talking about different styles, different sizes of rings, and it would actually slim down as you watch SmackDown today. In any type of match today, it kind of looks like a table. Yeah. They barely can fit a table in it.
Yeah, that's it. Well, anyway, next match we had the Headbangers, Mosh and Flash. I'm sorry, just let you know that Billy Gunn did get the win in this opening match. If you're going to go back, don't bother watching. It's not worth it. Headbangers, some of my favourites. Love the Headbangers. Mosh and Flash defeated Doug Ferguson, Phil LaFont, the Goodwins, and the New Blackjacks. New Blackjacks. What a crap team.
It was JBL, man.
I know. It was.
That was JBL, Barry Windham. With the dyed mustaches, never really took off. If you really want to fail in the company, all you have to do is put the word new in front of it. You
I
know,
was never a fan of Wyndham. Throughout his whole career, I never really liked him.
I don't think Wyndham was a fan of Wyndham. I think that he just never really cared that much. I think
Yeah.
that Wyndham just was, not going to say he was lazy, but I just think that he just, when you look at his career, he's had some great matches in WCW, and I think Dusty got behind him a lot, but it just didn't translate. I don't know anybody that was like, oh, I'm a Barry Windham fan, especially when he was the stalker. I like this match. And I think Doug Furness and Phil LaFawn were definitely people that you should pay, that were awesome.
They were never top notch really from an entertainment perspective, unfortunately, and that's where I always think that they suffered.
Yeah, like I think they were like featured once a month at this point, maybe if they made TV. Like I don't know why they were just thrown in there. Actually, wait, you know what makes sense? Because I think they were. Did they go to the dungeon?
They did, I believe, yes.
Makes sense. Okay. Because then they would be on Canadian Stampede, if I recall.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's one of the best. We'll definitely have to revisit that soon, I think.
Good. This was a good match, showing the Headbangers go over the top. It was good tag team wrestling, though, between the Godwins and them in the end.
I like the God. Do you know what? I thought the Goblins were so underrated. Underrated. Unfortunately, they had that kind of yokel gimmick, but I thought both the Phineas especially was very underrated. Obviously, he went on to be Naked Midian.
and he had sex with a turkey. Remember?
He did. But anyway, the Headbangers went over in this one. I love the Headbangers. The Headbangers were one of my favorites. I really did like them. And they transitioned still quite well, even in the Attitude Era, they've done well. But they won the number one contenders match. Wouldn't be too long after this, they actually went on and won the title.
It was a big party in the Civic Center. Actually, no. And let me tell you, Cornette actually broke the news to them in the back. He says, you guys are winning the belts. I want you to celebrate right now because you cannot celebrate in the back because you're going to piss off a lot of people.
Yeah.
When they won the belts. That's sad politics right there.
Yeah. Well, talking about politics, we had the next match, Rocky Maivia. Obviously,
lovely segue.
He was getting so stuffed by WWE down people's throats, and the people didn't want it, and it was something that WWE had to learn, and I think they did. I think they've gone full circle and they kind of go back to this now, but it shows you if you let somebody be organic and be themselves, what they can actually achieve and what they can be. But this one was a nice moment as well, because obviously he's up against the Sultan, who was Rikishi. Sheiky Baby is knocking around there with the Sultan, and then obviously Rocky defends. Sultan comes to attack him with the Sheik. Out comes new Hall of Famer Rocky Johnson, makes the save. Really nice moment for son and dad. Being a dad myself, I actually appreciated that watching it back this time rather than what I did probably when I was younger, you know what I mean? And it meant a lot to me watching that,
Yeah, Rocky Johnson was in great shape too, came out. Actually, I enjoyed this match. It was typical, back and forth, bad guy, good guy, bad guy cheats with manager. I think Bob Backlund also got involved too at one point. Which was weird that he was aligned with Iron Sheik as well. But you got some fun things going on. I guess they wanted some foreign diplomacy there. Sultan's going to be Sultan. Sultan's Rikishi. And we all know that. And we all know that if you are of Samoan descent, you automatically get a WWE contract and are just gifted. I can't wait to see what they do with Solo Sikoa.
And during the early 90s, if you were of Samoan descent and you signed with WWE, you automatically became from the middle, from the Orient or the Middle East. You come from East.
Oh, and by the way, your head is basically the strength of 600 coconuts combined too.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite tropes in the world. If you are Samoan or Hawaiian or whatever, you will never get a concussion.
Yeah. Well, Rivia got the win, mate. Really good. Father-son moment, everything else. Good WrestleMania moment. One of my favorites now as an adult and being a father myself now when I watch back on it. Really, really love it.
You're wrong in one aspect, though. You called yourself an adult. Never mind.
Piss off. Well, next match we had, I wish it was a baby again because there was a lot going on here. Triple H, or Hunter Hearst Helmsley, as he was known back then, with China versus Goldust with Marlena. Really solid match, this. I think Hunter is so underrated in the ring.
He
and
puts
obviously
people over.
We know Dustin's good as well, you know what I mean?
It's a good story to tell here. Yeah. This is the first, I think it's the first major appearance of China, too, at a pay-per-view.
It was.
And also, let's not forget that Jerry Lawler was pretty insufferable during this whole pay-per-view, but he had some lines that just go.
He always does, doesn't he, when it comes down to the puppies and.
I am not a social justice warrior, but man, would they call for this guy's head if he did what he did today? You know, if he came out there today, he would get slapped with injunctions. He would be written off the network. He wouldn't be there full time. And if you notice, when he does do these he does these guest commentaries now, it's you have a very tame, you know.
Yeah. Like he knows his place nowadays, doesn't he? He knows what he can and can't do.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that he was talking about China just looking like a man, it was just that ain't gonna fly today. But you had a good story here. You had China basically capturing Marlena, Terry Runnels, who looked fantastic, and kind of was stalking her as prey, and Goldust was defending the honor there, and just a good story here, of just Goldust wanting to defend the honor of her. Triple H is at that point now where he's past being in the doghouse with the Federation too, from the curtain call.
Yeah.
So
he's also starting getting away from that blue blood character as well, isn't he? You know what I mean? Which was cool as well. And you know what? Give him his due, because he was that Hunter Hearst Helmsley character for a while, and he managed to segue out of that and get himself where he needed to be and move with the times. Really, really good stuff. And he gets the win here, doesn't he? Which, right move at the time. And obviously we know he goes on, and that's great. Next match, Owen Hart and the British Bulldog, who are the champions, versus Mankind and Vader with Paul Bearer. Really enjoyed this match, and I think this was the last time we seen British Bulldog in his Union Jack here at WrestleMania.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, probably. You're probably right. I think the main story here is one of those, can they coexist, Andrew? I think when you hear who interviewed them on the runway, somebody interviewed them on the runway. I forget who it was, but he said, "Are you guys? Who's the leader of the team?" And Owen's like, "It doesn't matter. We're ruling, and we're the champions right now. Look, he's got 2 belts. I have the Slammies. He goes. Then he's like, I'm the leader, and then they walk to the ring.
Yeah,
it's just Owen being Owen. It's scary because I was like, wow. Owen's going to keep this haircut up until he tragically passes. So the Nuggets. Owen Hart was just.
And you know what?
You said it before, though, man. You got to enjoy these people and just don't take a day for granted.
And you know what was sad here for Owen, and I thought about this, I was watching the other day, is his match at WrestleMania 10 with Bret was just so good. And it's like, I know he's quite prominent on this card, but we should have been further up, shouldn't he? But unfortunately, we were still in the land of the big guys at this point. And he's just so good, wasn't he?
Yeah, you're going to see into it too. I did do something for Wrestle Buddy in regards to just the best openers, and that's going to be up there. I'm not going to give you details as far as what I rank that as far as the number 1 openers go, but let's just put it up there. That WrestleMania 10 match was one of the best I've ever seen. But this is a good match. Mankind and Vader are accompanied by Paul Bearer in this. So Paul Bearer has totally defunct himself out from the Undertaker's shadow, I guess you could say. I'm a huge fan of when Paul Bearer actually does this. So it's really, really freaking funny because he actually, there's one point where he's walking through like this, and it's like, how are you going to hold the urn?
Well, obviously Bulldog and Owen retaining a double count out. Not a fan of double count outs, but you know, suppose it kept it going afterwards, which is all right by me.
I agree with you. It doesn't add anything to the story
No.
at that point. It just
No.
shows like, hey, mankind's maniacal, so he's going to keep the mandible claw on Bulldog as they roll the outside. So it's just kind of your heel is stupid then.
Yeah.
It's okay. Everybody except for Vader goes on an upward trend after that.
Yeah. Right. On to our next match and one of the best WrestleMania matches in history. Them two gentlemen right behind you. Away you go, Dale.
So we have Ken Shamrock being introduced as the enforcer referee in an I Quit match here. He wants to sit there and say, hey, look, I'm going to make sure that this is fair and square. Bret has been on a fantastic tirade. Bret's sitting there saying, look, I'm getting screwed. I need this title shot because the guy over my left shoulder said, look, or right shoulder on you, whatever you guys are watching, with over my left shoulder, what's going on is he's saying, look, this guy screwed me out of the Royal Rumble, threw me out when he should have been out too. I need that title shot. This is when lines are blurred because Vince McMahon at this point is saying, look, no, just go in there. There's definitely tension between the boss and Bret, you know, and this is an ongoing theme, probably one of the best themes there. The matchup itself, I feel like describing it is doing it an injustice. Mm-hmm. And it's something that people should watch again because of just how much these guys look like they hated each other. Yeah. And I'm not going to say that. Okay, I'll say this. Bret didn't need it, but Austin elevated him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you just could tell that Austin just made Bret look like $1 million.
Yeah.
You know,
Bret's done with him as well, didn't he? And I think one thing you can say with this match, this is a prime example of how you can lose but come out the winner, if that makes sense.
Exactly. You know, we talked about how Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect last week when we were discussing the WrestleMania 7, we're trading off on selling and who does the better sell. Yeah. Man, oh man. I mean, like, I'm just looking at it, and Bret's just selling the crap out of like a turnbuckle throw, the chest hitting into it, the back, the pain, you know. And I understand Bret has a lot of health issues, but not comparing. But this guy knew how to take care of his body more than a lot of people that have these ailments and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And just Austin helped him out here totally. You know, the blood dripping from his head. The finish was fantastic. The finish was the best that you could ever book. I mean, Austin almost broke out of the sharpshooter. Yeah. Then he broke out, you know, and then it was finished. You know, and that was applied.
I believe this is one of the first with the whole Stone Cold attitude, is the fact that he passed out rather than tap out and all that. It was just perfect, wasn't it? Perfect.
And you got to give credit to Jim Ross for letting you know that he did not tap out. What a man here. And you heard, and there is no, they don't lie when they tell you that you hear the crowd turning. And the crowd was saying, you know, because Bret was becoming a prick in the industry at this point. You know, he was a thorn in the side for Vince. Vince had, we forgot to mention, was Michaels on the mic here at this time? Was Michaels at the desk?
I think he was at the mic at this point, wasn't he?
He may have been, or it might have been the final match.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. But, you know, it's at this point where Vince has just had enough with this guy. So just an awesome, awesome match. One of the best ever, period. Steve Austin wakes up after the bell rings, you know, a little bit after, gains consciousness and stuns a referee. So, you know, you have a story to tell. You have a badass that a year from now will actually headline WrestleMania in his own right and be fantastic. So, Andy, thoughts on that match?
Just exactly what you're saying, mate. It was just the whole story they told throughout the matches. If you want to watch a match where people always say tell a story in the ring, go and watch this match and nobody will have to explain to you what that means. You can just go back and watch it and it will explain it itself, which is exactly what people talk about when they say tell a story in the ring. This is the perfect match to go back and watch to find that. And to,
no matter what age.
Yeah,
no matter what
because,
age and what style wrestling.
yeah, that's it. Because, you know, sometimes you'd have it with the young bucks and they go, oh, we're trying to tell a story or trying to this. Go back and watch this match and it'll explain to you exactly what that means and what it should mean rather than what it actually is. Perfect. The finish was just fantastic because it's exactly what it should have been to get them where they needed to be. So Bret got the win, which elevated them back to title level, which is great. Austin showed he was a badass by not tapping out and passed out at the end, which again, you know, elevated Austin beyond belief. And another reason with this match, as I said before, is it shows that you lose a match and come out a winner. And what I mean by that is you lose the match, but you come out better off because it built the momentum for you. And that's
People
what it was right here.
Yep. And people are crazy for saying that your momentum's totally killed if you lose a match. And that's not saying that every single storyline in wrestling follows this whole plan. No, it's impossible. And it's funny because you mentioned a tag team right before there where the wrestling community would say, oh, they're living rent free. No, this is what they want to change wrestling to. And we're just saying, no, it's not rent free. It's the fact that we hate them.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's even like with them with that there though, like that iconic picture and image. You know, if you type in Austin versus Bret WrestleMania, it will come up straight away with a picture of Bret with the sharpshooter locked in, Austin screaming like that and the blood down his face. WWE know how to make it. You know, you can make an iconic image out of something and you can do it, and that's something I don't believe that they do well enough in modern day wrestling now.
No, they can't do it because the attention span isn't there for it.
Yeah.
If you Google 1997 wrestling, who are you going to get? You're going to get those two guys. Yeah. You're going to get that guy with two other people with him, with the NWO.
Yeah.
You know, you're not, if you Google wrestling 2022, what are you going to get? You're going to get Brock Lesnar. You're going to get Roman Reigns. Trying to think what else. You know, AEW wise, I don't even think you'll get Adam Page. No. I really don't think that.
No, you get CM Punk. I think he'll be the one for that, wouldn't it? And MJF, yeah.
So there you go. What about, and if you Google 2019 or 2018?
Well, one thing I will say to you is this match doesn't remind me of MJF versus Punk, but in terms of AEW's last pay-per-view, where the Punk MJF match was better than the title match at the top of the card, I think this was the same.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree because you got two guys there. They're professionals. Not to get into you know that era, or modern day, but you know, other than the fact that I think everything Punk has done this year is just a greatest hits of who he wants to mimic. And if you think I'm crazy, go ahead and he could even tell you. I mean, he got teary-eyed talking about Bret. Everything that he's does has been Bret Hart this year. Watch.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll move on now, and we had the Let Me Up match in between, didn't we? Ahmed Johnson and an old Legion of Doom versus the Nation of Domination before it kind of got up where it needed to be. So Nation Domination was Farouk, Crush, and Vega, and they got defeated by Ahmed Johnson and Legion of Doom. Ahmed Johnson was a bag of shite, wasn't he?
He was awful.
Yeah.
God, he was awful. I love this guy was somebody that believed in himself so much that he just didn't care about anybody else that helped him elevate. There were people that in this match in particular that wanted to kick the crap out of him in real life, whether they were teammates with him or not. Because I'll tell you, I don't think that Hawk and Animal liked the guy.
No, they definitely didn't.
There were spots during this match where I remember seeing, I think, Animal on the outside watching Ahmed literally get stuff thrown at him, and he just didn't care. He just looked and then just turned away. Yeah. Like, obviously, there are certain points in a match and wrestling spots that are supposed to take place, you know, but they were going through motions. We talked about it. LOD was there for a ride, man, and they love giving the titles to them, but it's like, who's the competition at that point, you know? And they were attractions.
Yeah, they were, but at the end, they were at the end of the attraction at this point, I think. And they'd actually leave not long after, wouldn't they?
Where would they go? Would they go to Japan?
I think they went for one shot in Japan, didn't they? And then Hawk went and smoked crack in Japan for 6 months or whatever. I think it was after that. Like at that point.
He was a Yakuza boy.
Yeah. What happened? Why did Crush not get anywhere? I thought he had all the makings to be one of the top guys.
When we did our podcast about how would you book it, we actually discussed Crush. One of the topics that you and I talked about was how could you make Crush better? And they had him be the Japanese sympathizer. Meanwhile, we weren't even at war with them in 1993. Even though he was aligned with Yokozuna, who was not Japanese.
Do you know one thing I would have done? I would have kept the Demolition music and had him still come out to that and kind of go down that gimmick on his own. I thought it would have worked.
I don't know. He had great hair though, didn't he?
He did. He looked like he had everything. He looked like he had it all. But for some reason, it just didn't stick, did it?
He was a cool dude, man. He you know.
And Savio Vega was awesome as well. I loved him. I always liked
Savio knew how to sell, man. There was a Rumble I was watching where he got battered and he was like this, like punch drunk, and he knew how to make everybody else look good. So I love Savio. He actually goes into MLW as Quang sometimes. Yeah, I'm not kidding you either. It's fantastic. It's great.
Well, that match, as we say, it came in, it went, it was what it was, and then we had the big main.
Wait, we got a shout out to PG-13 coming in there. PG-13, they were there. Yeah.
Yeah, they were there. Wolfie D and okay.
Good wrestlers, right?
Yeah. Anyway, on to our main event. Undertaker defeated Psycho Sid. I loved Psycho Sid. I loved him, his psychology, everything else. Loved the Undertaker at this point as well, though. And it went 21 minutes. And both big guys showed that they could actually wrestle in this one.
The crowd was silent, though, Andy. I mean, this is not the headliner.
No, it's not.
If they could, if they could do this over, the ones behind me would have been the main event. But it's WrestleMania at that point. Vince didn't dabble in the grudge match type of feel. Like, I'll be honest with you. The last time they did one of those grudge matches that I feel that where it was merited, the grudge match as the finale was Ciampa and Gargano, a few years ago. I thought that was wonderful. The Psycho. So Shawn Michaels came out on commentary.
It is.
Bret, and you got to realize something. One of the notes that I have here is that Bret Hart ended up that heel turn wasn't just in that one match behind me. It was during the night because he came out to the ring and actually cursed out Vince McMahon. Vince, and he said, if Bret Hart came out and said the sunny days, the lose your smile. So Sean, did you find your smile? 1997 was one hell of a ride in wrestling, and that just proved it. The fact that he spoke about that, these two hated each other. You watch shoot interviews, it'll still be entertaining to you. Watch Dark Side of the Ring about the Montreal Screwjob. I mean, right there. I mean, this is just everything correlating with it. The weird thing that I have to say about this match, though, is that people were chanting Sid and booing Bret Hart, and it's like, man, we love Sid. We love Sid. Sid's on like every pay-per-view, right? He's on every pay-per-view that we do.
We love him. We always love him. We love Sid, and just wish it wasn't baseball season half the time because we probably would have got a lot more out of him than what we did. But
softball.
Oh, all right. Same thing. Same song, different dance. You hit things with a stick.
I'll hit you with the stick.
But overall, then, what would you give this pay-per-view?
Just for this match behind me, 4.
Oh no, I'm not. 3 for me.
This match behind me is a 4.
But, sorry, the matches, but the cards as a whole.
Yeah, 4 out of 4 stars for this match. The card itself, I'm going to go with 3. I love the visual of Ken Shamrock breaking up the two behind me. Okay, of Bret and Steve. I forgot that we're for people on Spotify and listen to the podcast. They don't know who the fuck I'm talking about. But I think that 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 really set the tone of Ken Shamrock's going to be tough. and he's going to come in here. In a year later, you're going to see this too. I think there's a lot going on here. Seeing LOD is fun. Always crowd pops. That's a road warrior pop. They call that, man. Yeah. I thought the 4-way tag match, although the Furnace and the Fawn, like seeing them is cool. And you should really venture into watching more of them. But that was a good match. I think the Triple H one has a good story to tell in there. And if you want to talk about an underrated match on here, I'm going to say Rock Sultan, only for the fact that nostalgia's there.
Yeah.
And seeing Rocky Johnson come back out of nowhere, because I don't even think people expected it. You know,
well, he had gone in the Hall of Fame the night before.
Right, but the Hall of Fame wasn't televised like it was.
Yeah,
so people forget that. You know, it's not really advertised as much. So, and FanFest really started in 93 or 94, I think. Might have been 94 when FanFest really started, you know, getting into play. But they weren't really doing interactions. It was kind of just like what you gypsies do is what, a flea market or something like that.
Right, that's the one. But one thing I noticed on this as well is one of the last WrestleMania we've done had a lot of matches on the card. This didn't have as many. You know,
yeah.
A bit short, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did 7 and 15. Like we were just bam, bam, bam.
Yeah. Well, this one had eight matches. This had.
Yeah. Any key takeaways from this though?
No, not really. As I said, I think that the Austin Bret Hart match faded the attitude there of what we were coming into. Triple H is just finding his feet on there. Headbangers go on to be a good championship team for a while. And also one thing I noticed as well is like where you've got Bret Hart and Owen Hart together on this First Mankind Invader, we would start revisiting the proper tag teams after this. Not long after this, we'd start having the proper teams again, like we did in the early days.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And that's when you actually see Bret start to align himself with his brother and Davey Boy there. Neidhart will come back, and no, would he? Yeah, he might. I think he does. And Pillman would come back. One other thing, I found out the interviewer, Todd Pettengill.
I was going to say him, you know what? Oh, God.
Todd was great, man.
He was great. Yeah, he was great.
He's a DJ here. He's a DJ for New York. He's still the same dude. Yeah, man.
That's cool. We'll have to try and get him on sometime. He'd be a good guest. He really was.
No, I definitely would. You know, and we keep talking about it. We got to get Sid on here. I just see it's like our careers during this revolves around Sid, which revolves around softball season. So
it does, doesn't it? I know. Well, we'll have to get him on. Right. Well, that was it, guys. That was WrestleMania 13. Make sure you drop a comment in the likes and subscribe to the channel. Let us know what your favorite part of this WrestleMania was, and keep interacting with us. We appreciate all the help and support that we're getting off everybody. But until next time, I am Andy.
I'm gonna do the Kona Crush goodbye. Mahalo, boys and girls.
Peace out. See you next week.